Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My parents took my office to support my brother's streaming career, so I quietly made one move, and what happened next left their world in chaos. I'm a 26-year-old guy, still living at home after earning my computer science degree. Bay Area rent is insane, and I've been trying to build up my web development business. That office space wasn't just a room, it was the converted garage. My converted garage. The place where I'd been working 60-hour weeks for the past 3 years. Landing clients, building my portfolio, paying my dues, and paying $850 a month in rent to my parents, plus utilities, plus groceries half the time. That space was the reason I could even function, but none of that seemed to matter when Easton wanted it. Easton, my 19-year-old brother, the golden child, failed out of community college twice, and yet somehow mom and dad still act like the sun shines out of his butt. He wanted my workspace for his streaming career, which, for the record, consists of him playing Valorant badly for an audience of maybe 12 people. I think I need the garage, Easton said one evening, arms folded like he was making some kind of power move. The living room's too noisy for my setup. I blinked. Your setup? You mean the laptop and $30 mic you got from Best Buy? Mom didn't even look up from her phone. Easton needs the space for his equipment. His followers are really growing, and this could be his big break. I stared at her. Yeah, all 38 of them. She didn't respond. Meanwhile, I just landed a $5,000 contract last month, the same contract that helped pay for the new water heater when there's crapped out over Christmas. Not that anyone bothered to say thanks. Dad chimed in with his usual brand of wisdom, mouth full of fries. Your brother needs privacy. The living room isn't cutting it. Privacy. For the kid who hadn't contributed a single dollar to this household. Meanwhile, I'm the one who re-shingled the damn roof last summer, fixed mom's car when it broke down, and upgraded the home network when dad couldn't get Netflix to stop buffering. I've dumped at least $9,000 into this place over the past year, and they treat me like some random tenant they're doing a favor by letting stay. Easton sat across from me with that smug little smirk, like he'd won. Like he always wins. That's how it's always been, him taking, me giving. Since we were kids. He was the special one. Needed extra help, extra attention, extra everything. When I made honor roll, they nodded. When he passed a class with a C-, they took him out for ice cream. I stabbed at my fries, ketchup splattering across the tablecloth. Mom frowned at the mess. Be careful, she muttered, still not looking at me. I didn't even care anymore. The garage was my space. My sanctuary. The only place I could breathe in this house. But clearly, I wasn't even entitled to that. Dad offered, like he was doing me a favor. You can set up in the basement. The basement, with its half-finished walls, concrete floor, that persistent mildew smell, where the Wi-Fi barely reaches, where the ceiling's so low I have to hunch, where they store all their crap. But I just nodded, because what else could I do? I've spent my whole life being reasonable while they catered to Easton's every whim. That night, I sat alone in my garage office, staring at the setup I'd built with my own hands. The custom desk I made from reclaimed wood, the perfect cable management, the sound absorption panels I installed to keep things quiet and professional. 3 years of building my space, my business, my livelihood, and they were giving it away to a teenager who couldn't even be bothered to wash his own dishes. Something inside me just snapped. But maybe I should back up and explain the Easton situation, because that's key to understanding why this desk thing hit me so hard. From day one, this kid has been treated like he's made of glass. Growing up, if I came home with a B+, Dad would frown and ask, why not an A? If Easton scraped by with a C-, there'd be a celebration like he'd won a Nobel Prize. He's just wired differently, Mom would say. He needs more support. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one, the one who had his act together. Translation, the kid they didn't have to worry about, so they didn't. When I was 16, I saved for 6 months, 6 long months to buy my first laptop. Easton got the newest iPhone for his 12th birthday, because all his friends had one. I busted my butt for a scholarship to state. Easton flunked out of community college, and they blamed his professors for not understanding his learning style. Then they paid for him to try again at a different school, which he also flunked out of. When I moved back home after graduation, the deal was simple. I'd pay rent and stay until I got established. Fair, reasonable. But somehow, I also became the in-house tech support, handyman, and emergency fund. Last year, the furnace died. Coldest week of January. The repair bill came to $2,700. Guess whose savings paid for it? Not Mom or Dad, both of whom worked decent jobs. Definitely not Easton, who was between opportunities. Me. They promised, we'll pay you back soon. Still waiting on that. 3 months ago, Dad's car needed a new transmission. $1,800. Came straight out of the money I'd set aside from client work. Last summer, I spent 2 weeks tearing down and rebuilding the deck that was rotting through. I paid for the materials. I did the labor. I was outside in the heat with a hammer and power drill while Easton sat inside, playing video games. When they had friends over to see the new deck, Dad laughed and said, "Yeah, got it done for cheap." He never mentioned that I built the damn thing. And every single time I try to bring this stuff up, Mom gets teary-eyed like I'm attacking her, and Dad gets defensive. Family helps family, he says, but it only ever seems to go one direction. So yeah, the garage workspace meant a lot to me. It was the one place in this house that was mine, where I built something from nothing. And now they were handing it over to Easton because his streaming career might take off someday. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, cataloging every time they'd chosen him over me. Every time they'd taken something from me just to hand it to him. Every time I'd swallowed my anger, smiled, nodded, and played along like the good son. Not anymore. The next morning, I skipped our usual family breakfast. I couldn't sit there, looking at Easton's smug face across the table. Couldn't listen to Mom ramble on about how they were going to redecorate my workspace for him. Instead, I sat in my car, engine off, in the driveway scrolling through apartment listings. I'd been saving for my own place, telling myself I'd wait at least another year. That Bay Area rent meant stretching every cent. But screw it. I'd live on ramen if I had to. That's when I found it. A studio in Oakland. 500 square feet. Dated kitchen, sure, but it had a decent-sized alcove, perfect for my desk setup. $1,850 a month. Actually below market for anything that wasn't actively on fire. The landlord wanted first, last, and security up front. $5,550. I had $8,200 saved. It would be tight, but doable. I fired off an email with my credit score and income verification from my freelance contracts. Got a reply within an hour. Available now. Can you come see it this afternoon? Hell yes, I could. The place was exactly as advertised. Small, a little worn around the edges, but clean. Big windows. No mildew smell. No Easton. No parents acting like every dollar I earned belonged to the family fund. I'll take it. I told the landlord, a chill older lady named Janet who glanced over her glasses and said, "I prefer renting to quiet professionals over party kids." I smiled. That's me. Quiet. And very professional. She nodded, slid the paperwork over. I signed everything on the spot, handed her the check, and got the keys. Just like that. I had my escape plan. Driving home, I felt this weird mix of triumph and fury. Like I'd just broken out of prison and realized I should have done it years ago. Instead, I'd been bankrolling a family that saw me as nothing but a walking ATM. Well, resources can dry up. I didn't say a word about the apartment. Instead, when Mom texted asking if I could pick up groceries on the way home, I replied, sure, like nothing had changed. But I didn't buy the usual $200 haul. Just milk and bread. The bare minimum. When I walked in with one sad little bag, Mom blinked. Where's the rest? Budget's tight this month, I said with a shrug. Figured we could all chip in. The look on her face like I'd just suggested we start eating the furniture. But you always get the groceries on Tuesdays, she said. Yeah, well, things change. Dad was in the garage, my garage, measuring the walls. Planning Easton's new streaming desk like it was some kind of NASA mission. They were about to drop $600 on a gaming setup. Funny how they always managed to find money for Easton. But whenever I mentioned the $4,500 they owed me, hey, the printer's jammed again. Easton called out the second he saw me walk through the door. Can you take a look? Normally, I would have dropped everything. Spent 20 minutes of my life extracting whatever crumpled paper Easton had shoved in there crooked while he hovered uselessly behind me. Not today. Can't, I said, brushing past him. Client deadline. Can it wait? But your mother needs to print some work stuff. Nope, I said, not even slowing. Bills to pay. I walked straight to my soon-to-be ex-office, the garage, and started casually sorting through my things. Not packing. Not obviously. Just taking stock. Moving things around. Making a mental inventory of what would come with me and what I'd leave behind. That night, the printer remained jammed. Mom had to make a trip to Kinko's. Dad muttered something about family responsibilities as he chewed through his second plate of dinner. I didn't respond. Just sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, wireless headphones on, quietly coding away. A small, satisfied smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. The next day, Easton cornered me in the kitchen. Dude, can you drive me to Brandon's? My car's making that noise again. His car. My old Honda, technically. The one I'd spent hours fixing up before selling it to him for half its value because I was trying to be a supportive big brother. And how had he thanked me? By never maintaining it. Never checking the oil. Running it into the ground. Take the bus? I said flatly, not even looking up from my coffee. The bus? It's like 5 miles. Sounds like a personal problem. He stood there a beat, his mouth hanging open like he couldn't believe I'd just said that. Then he spun on his heel and stormed off. 10 minutes later, Mom appeared in the kitchen, arms folded, that disappointed look already locked in. Ryder, your brother needs a ride. It would only take 20 minutes. I've got work, I said, calmly sipping my coffee. You're just sitting there drinking coffee. Yeah, on my break. From work. You know, the work that pays my bills. And yours, apparently. Her mouth opened, then closed. She wasn't used to this pushback. Not from me. Small rebellions. But damn, they felt good. By day 3 of what I was now calling Operation Take Back My Life, the cracks in the family system started to show. The lawn, which I'd mowed every Sunday since high school, was starting to look like a jungle. The dishes were piling up in the sink. Usually, I loaded the dishwasher without being asked. The Wi-Fi kept dropping because no one had reset the router in the usual spots where it glitched out. Little things. The things they didn't even notice they relied on me for. Taken for granted. Always there. Until I wasn't. Thursday night, Dad hovered awkwardly in my doorway. So, the lawn's getting kind of out of control, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. I glanced up from my laptop. Yep, sure is. I figured you were going to mow it last weekend. Nah. A long pause. Are you going to mow it this weekend? Wasn't planning on it. I turned back to my screen. He shifted from foot to foot, clearly uncomfortable. Is something wrong, Ryder? You seem off lately. That was rich. 3 years of using me as their personal handyman, ATM, and emotional support human, and now he notices something's off? Just busy with work, I said blandly. Well, we're family. We all need to pitch in. I finally looked up at him, letting the words hang there in the air. We all need to pitch in. Really? When was the last time Easton had pitched in with anything? When was the last time Dad had fixed something himself instead of waiting for me to do it? Sure, I said finally. I'll add it to the list. I didn't specify what list, but I was definitely keeping score. The next morning, I woke up to raised voices downstairs. Groggy, I rubbed my eyes and padded quietly to the top of the stairs, peering over the banister. Easton and Dad were arguing in the living room loud enough to wake the neighbors. Why do I have to do it? Easton whined, his arms flailing. That's Ryder's job. Your brother's busy, Dad snapped. Just do it this once. But I have a stream scheduled. Easton cried like someone had asked him to scrub toilets with a toothbrush. My followers are expecting me. All 38 of them, I thought dryly. Tragic. Then reschedule it. Jesus Christ, Easton, it's just lawn mowing. It was like watching a nature documentary, the parasitic relationship finally irritating the host organism just enough to trigger a reaction. The symbiosis disturbed. The host pushing back. Fascinating. I slipped away from the banister and back into my room, grabbed another moving box, and started filling it. Slowly, methodically. I'd been relocating my valuables bit by bit, like a quiet migration. While they argued about chores and streaming schedules, I moved the essentials, my hard drives, external monitors, design notebooks out of the house. The studio apartment in Oakland was starting to look like a real home. But the real bombshell hit that afternoon. I was on a client call, mid-discussion about API integrations, when there was a knock at my door. Dad stepped in, wearing that strange mix of guilt and forced nonchalance he always tried when he knew he'd screwed up. Hey, a quick thing, he said, rocking back on his heels. He waited until I'd wrapped up my call before continuing. I sold your workbench. Guy's picking it up tomorrow. Got $300 for it. For a second, I just stared. My custom workbench. I asked slowly. The one I'd built from scratch. Designed to the perfect height for my posture. With built-in cable channels, shelving, and an adjustable mount arm for my dual-monitor rig? Yeah, he said. Easton needs a proper streaming desk. And since you're moving to the basement anyway. I didn't even raise my voice. You sold my property without asking me. He had the grace to look a little sheepish. I figured you'd be fine with it. It's for your brother's career. His career, I repeated, each syllable sharp. Right. Dad fumbled, trying to recover. Look, we'll split it with you. You can have 100. I stared at him. A third of the money. For a workbench I'd built. With my own hands. With my own funds. Keep it, I said, turning calmly back to my laptop. Consider it my investment in the Bank of Easton. Seems to be the only place my money goes around here anyway. He stood there for a moment, clearly confused that I wasn't yelling. Then he left, relieved I hadn't pushed harder. As soon as the door clicked shut, I opened a new tab and booked a U-Haul for Saturday morning. By Friday, 70% of my stuff had already been moved to the new apartment. Nothing too obvious, TV still mounted, bed still made, but all the important pieces were gone. My documents, clothes, and every critical component of my computing setup had quietly vanished while the rest of the household moved through their days, oblivious. The cracks were getting deeper. Easton had tried to mow the lawn, and left it looking like a goat had chewed it unevenly. Dad tried to fix the printer himself, and somehow made it worse. Now it refused to even power on. Mom, already stressed, had started getting snippy over the state of the house, snapping at Easton over dishes and muttering under her breath when she passed me in the hall. I just moved like a ghost. Did my own laundry, cooked my own meals, washed only my own dishes. When the internet went down again, Mom called out from the living room. "Ryder, the double Wi-Fi is acting up again." I didn't even look up from my code. I just called back. Try unplugging it. It was satisfying. Small things, but they added up. Friday night, Dad cornered me again, this time with that forced casual tone I'd come to recognize. "Look, about your workbench," he started. "If you really want to keep it, I can call the guy back." "Too little. Too late. Don't bother." He nodded slowly, clearly uncomfortable. "Easton's pretty excited about setting up the garage. Maybe you could help him get everything arranged this weekend," Dad said, like we were just two equals having a casual chat. "You know, make it a brother thing." I almost laughed in his face. A brother thing? After everything? After they'd taken my space, tried to sell my property, treated me like a glorified butler for years? "I've got plans," I said coolly, stepping past him. "What plans?" "My plans." I didn't give him the satisfaction of a fuller answer. Just kept walking, letting the words hang like smoke. I headed up the stairs toward my room, where the last of my essentials waited in a half-zipped duffel. He followed me, of course, hovering like always. That anxious, performative concern. "Ryder, what's going on with you lately?" he asked. "Your mother's worried." Of course she was. He always made her the mouthpiece when things got uncomfortable. "I'm worried," he added quickly. "But your mother's worried." Classic dad deflection. "Nothing's going on," I said, keeping my tone carefully neutral. "Just establishing some boundaries." "Boundaries?" His voice cracked, like the word personally offended him. "We're family, Ryder." And there it was. Family. The magic word. The blank check. The get-out-of-jail-free card they played every time they wanted something from me. Every time they needed a favor, or money, or for me to disappear while Easton took the spotlight. "Yes," I said slowly, "we are family." I turned to face him. Which is why it's interesting that when Easton wants something, it's all we need to support each other. But when I need something, suddenly it's, "You're an adult, figure it out." Dad's face flushed, a quick pulse of red climbing his neck. "That's not fair," he muttered. "We've supported you plenty." "Name one time." I shot back. "In the last year. One time you've helped me with anything. One time you've put my needs first." He opened his mouth. Closed it. "Tried again. We let you live here, don't we?" "I pay rent," I said. $8.50 a month. Plus utilities. Plus groceries half the time. Plus every emergency repair in this house. I stepped closer, didn't raise my voice, just spoke each word with clarity. "I'm not living here, Dad. I'm subsidizing all of you." "That's ridiculous. You're twisting things." "Am I?" I asked. "How much have I spent fixing this place up in the last year? The furnace? The deck? Your transmission?" His silence was answer enough. "Over $8,000, I said. "How much has Easton contributed?" "Ever. Nothing." He had nothing. "And now you're taking my workspace, the one place in this house that's actually mine, and giving it to him. Then selling my property without asking." I took a breath, steadying the rage that had simmered for too long. "So tell me again," I said, "how this is a two-way street." Dad's face was a slideshow of emotions: anger, defensiveness, confusion, and finally, something close to recognition. A crack of understanding, maybe. "We didn't think." "No," I cut him off. "You didn't." I turned back to my closet and yanked open the door. Started pulling the last of my clothes from the hangers, folding them roughly into the duffel. No more subtlety. No more slow, quiet moves. He watched me, uncertain now. "What are you doing?" he asked. His voice had lost all authority. It was smaller. Fragile. "Packing," I said. "For what?" I stopped. Turned to face him fully. "I'm moving out tomorrow." The shock on his face would have been comical if it wasn't so pathetic. "Moving out? Where? Why didn't you tell us?" Dad asked, his voice tight with disbelief. "I signed a lease last week," I replied, tossing the last of my notebooks into a box. "And I'm telling you now." "But the basement," he began. "You figured I'd just keep bankrolling this household while you guys kept taking," I said, cutting him off. "Yeah, that was the plan, wasn't it?" He didn't deny it, which told me everything I needed to know. "Ryder, let's talk about this," he said, trying to reel me back with the faux calm of someone losing control. "Your mother will be upset." "I'm sure she will be," I said, lifting the duffel onto my shoulder. "The ATM is leaving." He left, shell-shocked, and I heard the low, urgent murmur of voices downstairs, panicked conference mode. I kept packing, methodical, calm. The storm was coming, but for once, I wasn't going to be the one cleaning up after it. Saturday morning, the U-Haul was parked right in the driveway, no subtlety. I didn't care. Let the whole neighborhood see. Let them all watch as I carried out the last of my boxes. Mom stood in the entryway crying. Of course, her go-to manipulation tactic. Red eyes, trembling lip, the whole performance. I don't understand why you're doing this, she said, voice cracking. Why not talk to us first, like you talked to me? I said coolly, not breaking stride, before deciding to take my workspace. I slid another box into the truck, smooth and practiced. That's different. Easton needed. Easton always needs, I said. Easton always gets. I turned, met her eyes for the first time. I'm just finally taking myself out of the equation. Dad was pacing near the curb now, bouncing between frustration and negotiation. This is childish, Ryder, he snapped. Running away because you didn't get your way. Not running away, I said, lifting my computer tower into the truck bed. Moving on. There's a difference. Easton, predictably, was sulking on the porch. His arms crossed, lower lip practically trembling. His future streaming career apparently hanging in the balance now that I wouldn't be around to fix things for him. What about my desk? He whined. Dad already sold yours. Yeah, I said, turning to him with a smirk. Sounds like a you problem. I echoed it back to him, the phrase he'd thrown at me so many times. The look on his face? Worth it. Mom trailed behind me as I re-entered the house to grab the last box. Still sniffling. I just don't understand where this is coming from, she said. We're family. I stopped. Set the box down slowly. Turned to face her directly. Let me make it crystal clear then. I walked into the kitchen, opened the drawer where we kept pens, grabbed a marker, then tore a sheet from the printer that, surprise, still wasn't fixed. At the counter, I wrote, pressing hard enough to dent the wood beneath the paper. Ryder's contributions, last 12 months. Rent paid, $10,200. Utilities, $1,800. Groceries, $4,800. Furnace repair, $2,700. Dad's transmission, $1,800. Deck rebuild, $1,100, plus 80 hours labor. Regular home maintenance, $2 for 100. Tech support, countless hours. Total, $24,800. Easton's contributions, 0. Easton's attitude, priceless. I walked to the fridge, slapped it on with a magnet, and stepped back. That's where this is coming from. Mom stared at the list, her tears drying up like someone had flipped a switch. Reality, apparently, didn't leave room for theatrics. It hasn't been that much, she said, trying to recover. Check my bank statements, I said evenly. I kept records. Dad wandered in, reading over her shoulder. I watched the color drain from his face like someone had pulled the plug. The furnace wasn't that expensive, he protested, weakly. $2,700, I said. I have the receipt. You said you'd pay me back when things eased up. I met his eyes. That was 11 months ago. They exchanged uncomfortable glances, Mom fiddling with her sleeves, Dad staring at the floor like it might offer a way out. We've been meaning to, Mom started, her voice all soft guilt and vague intention. Save it. I cut her off, sharper than I intended, but not sorry for it. I don't even care about the money anymore. I looked between them, and it was like seeing them clearly for the first time, not as my parents, but as people who'd let me carry everything. What I care about, I continued, is that I've been keeping this household afloat for years, and you still treat me like I'm the selfish one whenever I need something. You still put Easton first. Every time. Even though he contributes nothing. Dad opened his mouth. He's younger, Ryder, he tried. He's still finding his way. He's 19. I snapped. I was working 2 jobs at 19. Paying for my own car, my own phone, my own everything. That's because you were more responsible. Mom's voice trailed off as the sentence betrayed her. Right? I said, holding her gaze. I was responsible. So you burdened me with everything. And he's irresponsible. So you burden him with nothing. And now you're genuinely shocked that I'm leaving. I picked up my last box, an old shoebox filled with backup hard drives and cables, and moved toward the door. Ryder, wait, Dad said. And there was something real in his tone this time. Not anger. Not control. Just fear. Let's figure this out. We can make this right. Too late, I said. I signed a lease. Paid the deposit. My name's off the utilities here as of Monday. That landed like a bomb. What do you mean your name's off the utilities? Mom asked, blinking fast like she hadn't heard right. I mean, I've been paying the internet, the streaming services, and half the power bill, I said. I called yesterday and had everything transferred or canceled. You've got about 48 hours to figure out new arrangements. From the hallway, Easton appeared, arms crossed over his chest, finally catching on that his lifestyle was about to take a hit. You can't just leave, he said, like I was violating some kind of unspoken family law. Who's going to fix the printer? Or the Wii when it goes down? I actually laughed. That was his first concern. Not, how will we pay the bills? But who's going to fix your toys for free? I shook my head, walked past him, and carried the box out to the U-Haul. Mom followed, now in full-blown panic mode. "Ryder, please," she said, voice tight with desperation. "We didn't realize how much you were doing. We can work something out your father, and I will pay you back." "With what money?" I asked, turning at the truck. "You guys live paycheck to paycheck." "We'll figure it out," she said. "Please just don't do this." I closed the U-Haul's rear door, latched it, locked it, turned around slowly. "I've already done it," I said. "I'm not asking for the money back. I'm not even asking for an apology, though that would have been nice." I looked her in the eye. "I'm just done being the family ATM." "But what about Easton?" she asked. And I almost admired her dedication to keeping him at the center of everything. "What about him?" I said flatly. Mom blinked, caught off guard by how little I seemed to care. "He's an adult. Let him get a job. He can't find anything in his field," she said, her voice wavering with disbelief that I didn't share her concern. "His field?" I raised an eyebrow. "He's a college dropout who plays video games badly on the internet." "That's not a field, Mom." It came out harsher than I meant it, but not by much. It was harsh, sure, but also true. And long overdue. Dad had stormed back into the house during the earlier argument, likely to cool off or avoid watching me finish packing. But now he reappeared, his steps quick and stiff. He was holding his wallet. Without a word, he pulled out 520s, his standard emergency stash, the same one he always kept hidden behind his driver's license. "Here," he said, thrusting the bills at me. "For the furnace. It's a start." I looked at the crumpled bills, then back at him. "Keep it," I said. "You're going to need it." I climbed into the U-Haul. Mom was openly sobbing now, shoulders shaking, eyes red and puffy, the whole thing. Dad just stood there, looking like the ground had dropped out beneath him. And Easton? He was glued to his phone, furiously texting someone, probably telling them all about how his terrible, ungrateful brother had just ruined his life. "I'll call you when I'm settled," I told them. Honestly, it was more courtesy than they deserved. As I pulled away, I glanced in the side mirror. There they were standing in the driveway, looking utterly lost. For the first time in their adult lives, they were going to have to solve their own problems. And me? I was free. The first week in my new place was blissful. No one barging into my room asking if I could just take a quick look at some broken device. No guilt trips about skipping family dinners. No expectation that I'd drop everything to help Easton troubleshoot his terrible stream setup. Just me, my workspace reclaimed and configured exactly how I wanted it, and the glorious, uninterrupted silence of a space that was 100% mine. On day 2, Mom texted, "The internet's not working, did you really cancel it?" I didn't respond. Let them figure it out. 3 days later, Dad called. "The hot water heater is making a weird noise. YouTube has lots of DIY videos," I said, and hung up. By the end of the week, the texts were coming in hourly. "The printer still isn't working. The yard's a jungle. How do you reset the router? Are the Netflix and Hulu passwords changed?" Of course they were. I'd canceled everything. Easton's career had stalled, because he couldn't even set up his own mic properly. Then came Mom's voice on the line, her tone almost pleading. "Can you just come over for an hour?" she asked. "We'll pay you. My contractor rate is $95 an hour," I said. 2-hour minimum. Payment up front. That shut her up for a while. But exactly 10 days after I moved out on a freezing Tuesday morning, I got the real call. Panic in Dad's voice. "The furnace quit again. The house is freezing." It was mid-February. Nighttime temps in the 30s. I sipped my coffee, stared out the window of my quiet little studio, and leaned back in my chair. "Call the HVAC company," I said. "They want $200 just to come out. Plus parts and labor," Dad replied, clearly hoping I'd swoop in and rescue them again. "Welcome to home ownership," I said cheerfully. "Ryder, please," he said. "We don't have that kind of money right now." Of course they didn't. They'd been counting on me to handle all of it like always. "What about the emergency fund?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Your mother had to use it for groceries," he admitted quietly. Translation: they'd been living beyond their means for years, and I had been their safety net. "That sounds serious," I said, doing my best to keep the satisfaction out of my voice. "Maybe Easton can contribute from his streaming income." The silence on the other end was delicious. "He doesn't," Dad started, then caught himself. "That's not really. Easton's not really bringing in money yet." Shocking. I let him stew in that for a beat. The awkwardness was practically vibrating through the phone. Then I sighed long, dramatic, unmistakably tired. "Text me the exact error code on the furnace display," I said. "I'll see if it's something simple." It wasn't, of course. The igniter had failed. A $95 part, plus labor. Not a massive repair, but just technical enough that if they tried to DIY it without knowing what they were doing, they'd likely end up frying the control board, turning a $95 problem into a $600 one. "You've got 2 options," I told Dad after a bit of quick research. "Pay the HVAC company, or replace the igniter yourself and risk damaging the control board. There was a pause. Can't you just come look at it, he asked. He didn't even try to hide the desperation. I'm in the middle of a client project with a deadline, I replied. That was true. But tell you what, if you and Easton want to come by tonight, I'll walk you through ordering the part and show you some YouTube tutorials on how to replace it. Another long pause. I could practically hear him weighing his pride against the steadily dropping temperature inside that house. What time? He finally asked. 7 p.m. And Dad, bring Easton. He should learn this stuff if he's going to keep living there. That night, they showed up at my door, both of them looking awkward and a little out of place. It was the first time they'd seen my new place. It's nice, Dad offered, glancing around at the studio apartment. His eyes settled briefly on my desk, the one I'd found on Craigslist, sanded, stained, and polished myself. Not the one they'd sold. That one was gone for good. Thanks, I said. I didn't invite them to sit. Let's talk furnace. I pulled up the manual for their unit, screen shared a schematic, and walked them through what the part looked like, where to find it online, how to remove the panel without breaking anything, how to install it correctly. Dad leaned in, squinting at the diagram. I don't think I can do this, he admitted. I definitely can't, Easton added, slouched back, arms crossed, not even pretending to care. Then you'll need to call the HVAC company, I said simply. Ryder, please, Dad tried again, voice thinning. We really don't have the money right now. Couldn't you just? No, I cut him off. I couldn't. And if you say family, I'm going to close this door right now. He blinked. Family goes both ways, I added, voice steady. And for years, it's only gone one way with us. He swallowed whatever he was about to say. Maybe for once, it landed. Look, I continued, softening slightly. I'll make you a deal. I'll come fix the furnace this one time. But in exchange, we're going to have a serious family meeting. About finances. Responsibilities. All cards on the table. I glanced at Easton. And Easton starts contributing. Dad looked visibly relieved. Deal. Absolutely. Easton, predictably, frowned. What do you mean, contributing? I said, meeting his eyes, you get a job. A real one. With a paycheck. You pay rent. You do chores, I told Easton, without being nagged. You learn how to fix basic household stuff so it doesn't all fall on Dad now that I'm gone. He squirmed in his seat. But my streaming is a hobby, not a career. Not yet anyway. You can stream on your days off, I replied, tone flat. Just like any other hobby. He looked like he wanted to argue, but then Dad shot him a warning glance, the kind that shut down whatever half-formed protest Easton was trying to mount. Fine, he muttered, slouching deeper in his chair. The next day, I went over and fixed their furnace. Took me about an hour. Start to finish could have been less if Easton had even pretended to pay attention instead of watching TikToks in the living room. Then I called a family meeting at the kitchen table. No dodging, no distractions. Just all of us, seated in the spot where so many silent dinners had happened over the years. I laid it out, their actual expenses versus income, the math behind what it would cost to replace all the services I'd been providing for free. Internet setup, tech support, groceries, bills, house repairs. It added up fast. Then I presented a proposed budget going forward, one that included Easton paying $250 a month in rent. That's not fair, Easton snapped. I don't have any money. That's why you'll get a job, I explained, slow and clear, like I was talking to a toddler. McDonald's is hiring. So is Target. So is every warehouse in the area. Those aren't real jobs, he scoffed. They pay real money. I said, money you need. Mom's eyes welled up again. Ryder, he's not like you. He struggles with what exactly? I cut in. He's not disabled. He's not sick. He's a perfectly healthy 19-year-old who's been allowed to coast because it was easier than holding him accountable. Dad surprised me by speaking up. Your brother's right, Easton. Things need to change around here. The look of betrayal on Easton's face was something to behold. He wasn't used to Dad taking anyone's side but his. This is bullshit, he declared, standing up. I'm not getting some lame job just because Ryder decided to be a dick about money. Yes, you are, Dad said, voice firmer than I'd heard in years. Where you're finding somewhere else to live. Holy, actual parenting. Happening before my eyes. Easton stormed off, slamming his door like the adult he very much wasn't. He'll calm down, Mom said quietly, but even she didn't sound convinced. And if he doesn't? I asked. Dad let out a slow, heavy sigh. Then he really will have to figure something else out. We can't keep going like this. I hadn't expected that. Maybe just maybe they were finally getting it. What about you? I asked. I meant what I said about all cards on the table. I've been subsidizing this household for years. That stops now. They looked at each other, something unspoken passing between them. Then slowly, they both nodded. We'll figure it out, Dad said. Get on a budget. Maybe pick up some extra shifts. Good, I said, rising. I'll check in next week to see how it's going. As I headed for the door, Mom called after me. Will you come for dinner sometimes? Not to fix things, just to visit. I paused. Maybe. Once you guys get your house in order. Literally and figuratively. 3 weeks later, Easton got a job at a warehouse. Entry level, but the pay was decent. The look on his face the first time he had to hand over rent money to Dad? Priceless. Worth every bit of the chaos it took to get here. Dad, for his part, dug out his old tools and started learning basic home repairs from YouTube. Mom actually set up a real budget and stuck to it. I didn't think she would at first, not after years of hand-waving and we'll figure it out. But she did. And slowly, surprisingly, things started to shift. They even started paying me back for the furnace. Small amounts, but regular. Consistent. Which, honestly, meant more to me than a lump sum ever could. And me? I'm killing it at my new place. Business is booming now that I don't have family drama chewing through my mental bandwidth like a virus. I've got boundaries. I've got peace. I've got that deeply satisfying feeling that only comes from watching people finally face their own mess without dragging you into it. I still go over for dinner occasionally, but now when something breaks, I don't automatically jump up like a damn and turn on call. I just sit back and watch Dad and Easton figure it out together. The dynamic has changed, and it's not subtle. It took burning it all down to build something better, and I don't regret a single spark. It's been half a year since I moved out. Half a year since I forced my family to face the realities they'd been avoiding. And I'll be honest, the transformation is actually kind of shocking. Last weekend I stopped by for the monthly family dinner. Yes, we have those now on my terms. I'm a guest, not the household ATM or the unpaid handyman. And the difference was visible before I even stepped through the front door. The lawn? Actually mowed. No jungle vines creeping up the porch. Inside, the kitchen sink wasn't drowning in dishes for once. And most shocking of all, Easton wasn't glued to his gaming setup, yelling at some 12-year-old on a headset. Turns out the golden child has been learning some harsh but necessary lessons. His streaming career hit a wall fast once he had to balance it with his warehouse job. No more 12-hour gaming marathons when you've got an 8-hour shift moving boxes. He bitched about it constantly at first. Mom confided with a small smile. But something unexpected happened. He got promoted to shift lead last week, Dad said, pride slipping into his voice as he passed me the pot roast. Youngest one they've ever had in that position. I looked at Easton. To my surprise, he actually looked embarrassed by the praise. A flush hit his cheeks, and he shrugged. It's not a big deal, he mumbled. Just means more responsibility for barely more money. Welcome to adulthood, I said with a small grin, and this time it didn't come with the bite it would have carried 6 months ago. But the real shocker came after dinner. The dishwasher let out this weird grinding noise mid-cycle. A clunk, then a whine. Damn thing, Dad muttered, half standing. Then he paused, turned to Easton instead of me. Can you take a look at that tomorrow? Probably just something caught in the filter. Easton just nodded. Yeah, no problem. Like it was normal. Like he'd been handling household maintenance all along. Like I hadn't been the one carrying that torch alone for years. Mom must have seen the surprise on my face, because she smiled and said, he's gotten pretty good with basic repairs. After you left, and the toilet broke for the 3rd time, he finally took initiative. YouTube tutorials. Easton gave a little shrug. Same ones you used to watch. I almost fell out of my chair. Later, Dad walked me out to my car. It was quiet, just the two of us under the porch light. Then he awkwardly handed me an envelope creased at the edges, stuffed thick. Inside was $500 in cash. It's not everything we owe you, he said quickly, before I could even open my mouth. But we've been putting aside a little each month. Figured we'd start making real payments. Not just token ones. I was genuinely speechless. For years, money had only flowed in one direction in this family from my pocket to theirs. This reversal felt alien. I looked at the envelope again, then back at Dad. Thanks, I finally managed. I appreciate it. He nodded, staring at his shoes like they had something important to say. We should have done better by you, he said quietly. I didn't realize how much we were taking advantage, until you weren't there to take advantage of anymore. His voice cracked slightly. It's not an excuse, but I'm sorry. Words I never thought I'd hear. Not from him. Not in this lifetime. He exhaled, like getting that out had cost him. Easton's different too, he added after a moment. Having real responsibilities. Earning his own money. It's been good for him. Made him grow up. Better late than never, I said. No venom. Just truth. Dad hesitated again. You doing okay? Place working out. Better than okay, I told him, and for once, I meant it without a shred of sarcasm. Business has doubled since I moved. Turns out not having my resources drained constantly lets me focus on actually building something. He winced slightly, but nodded. You deserved better from us. As I drove home, I realized something had shifted. Fundamentally, my family hadn't just adjusted to my absence. They'd grown from it. Easton was developing into a functioning adult. My parents were actually taking responsibility for their finances. And most shocking of all, they were finally acknowledging what they'd done. Obligatory disclaimer. Yeah, I know. Some of you will say I should have cut contact completely. Trust me, I considered it. More than once. But despite everything, they're still my family. I'm not saying everyone should reconcile. Some families are toxic beyond repair. But in my case, once they showed real change and actual remorse, I decided a controlled relationship was worth trying. Your mileage may vary. Then, the following week, I got a text from Easton that nearly made me crash my car. Hey, got a bonus at work, wanted to pay you back for the bike. Dad sold it, was a dick move. Let me know your Venmo. I'm not making this up. I literally had to pull over. For a second I thought I was hallucinating or someone had stolen his phone. I actually checked the contact name, stared at the screen, blinked hard. The golden child. Acknowledging a wrong. Offering to make it right. Without being forced. I sent him my Venmo info, half expecting radio silence. 10 minutes later, $300 hit my account. With the note. For the bike. Sorry it took so long. It wasn't just about the money. It was the recognition. The acknowledgement that what had happened wasn't okay. That weekend, something even weirder happened. Easton called. Called. Not a text. An actual phone call. Hey, he said, his voice a little awkward. So, the warehouse is offering a 401k match, and I don't really know what I'm doing. I figure I should start figuring this stuff out. Can you help me? Set up a basic budget or something? I blinked, then said, yeah, come by Sunday. He showed up right on time. No dramatic entrances. No whining. Just showed up with a notebook, his laptop, and a surprising willingness to learn. I walked him through how to track expenses, explained compound interest, gave him a few resources on financial literacy. We built a basic budget spreadsheet together, adjusted it for his current income, talked about emergency funds, and the difference between Roth and traditional IRAs. And the entire time, he paid attention, asked real questions, took notes, like an actual adult human. As he was leaving, he paused at the door, lingering like he had more to say. Your place is really nice, he said finally. Way better than that moldy basement they were going to stick you in. Thanks, I said. I like it. He shifted awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck. I was a real a-hole. About the garage. And a lot of other stuff. He glanced down, then back up. I didn't realize how much you were carrying for everyone. I hadn't expected an apology from him, not ever, really. I took a breath. Water under the bridge. I said, and I meant it. He gave a small nod. Mom and Dad, they really miss having you around. Not just for fixing stuff. They actually miss you. I smiled faintly. I miss certain things too, I admitted. Not the exploitation part, but the good parts of family. He nodded again, slower this time, like he actually understood. For what it's worth, he said, I'm glad you stood up for yourself. Needed to change. Now, 6 months out, I can honestly say my scorched earth exit was the best thing I could have done, not just for me, but for all of us. Mom and Dad are on a budget for the first time in their adult lives. They've started building an emergency fund. Dad's become surprisingly handy around the house. And Easton? He's not just working, he's thriving. Turns out, structure and expectations did more for him than 12-hour gaming marathons ever could. He still streams, sure, but now it's a hobby, not some delusional career plan. He's even talking about taking classes at community college again, but this time with a realistic plan. And me? I've started dating again. I joined a rock climbing gym. I've expanded my client base. All the energy that used to go into propping up my family now goes into building my own life. I still maintain firm boundaries. I don't lend money. I don't drop everything to fix their problems. But the dynamic has completely transformed. We're slowly rebuilding a relationship based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. It's still a work in progress, but for the first time, it actually feels like progress is happening. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for people is stop enabling their worst behaviors. It's messy. It's painful. But if they're capable of growth at all, they might just thank you for it eventually. My family did. And I never saw that plot twist. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.